I used to believe music could fix anything, no matter how bad my day was, how tired I felt, or how many times I doubted myself. All I had to do was sit at the piano, let my fingers move, and suddenly, everything made sense. That was before the accident, before the silence. Now my piano just sits there, collecting dust. I don't touch it. I don't even look at it if I can help it. It's strange how something that once felt like a part of me now feels so distant, like a memory from someone else's life. But the worst part? The silence. At night, when the world quiets down, I swear I can still hear him, my little brother, laughing, humming along to whatever song I was playing. He used to sit next to me, swinging his legs, tapping his fingers on the keys even though he had no idea how to play. He always begged for just one more song. "Come on, Noah, one more, just one." And I always gave in, every single time, until the night I didn't. I told him I was too tired, that he could hear another song tomorrow. Tomorrow never came. Now all that's left is this piano I can't bring myself to play, and the cassette tape sitting on my desk. It's small, almost easy to ignore, except for the handwriting on the label. His handwriting. Messy, a little smudged, but clear enough to read. "Play for me one last time." I found it months ago, buried in a box of his things. I don't know when he recorded it. I don't know what's on it. And honestly, I don't want to know. Because pressing play means remembering. And remembering means facing the truth I've been running from. That I let him down. That I wasn't there. That no matter how many times I tell myself it wasn't my fault, I'll never really believe it. So the tape stays where it is, unplayed, just like the piano. And I tell myself I'm fine, that I don't miss it, that I don't miss him. But some nights, when everything is quiet, I catch myself reaching for the tape. And that scares me more than anything. I don't know why I do it, but tonight, I pick up the tape. It's small, barely heavier than a few coins. My fingers trace the edges, the grooves in the plastic, the faded ink of his handwriting. It would be so easy to press play, to finally hear what he left behind. But instead, I set it back down. Just like every other night, I turn away, trying to push the thoughts out of my head. But then, as I move past the piano, my reflection catches in the dust-covered keys. It stops me in my tracks. I look different, tired, older, even though it's only been a year. Before the accident, I used to sit here for hours, playing until my fingers ached. Music was the one thing I was good at, the one thing that made me feel like I belonged. But now, all I feel is emptiness. Still, without thinking, I reach out. My hand hovers over the keys, close enough to feel the coolness of the ivory. Just one note, one simple sound. I press down. A single, broken note echoes through the room. The sound is softer than I remember. Hollow. I pull my hand back, heart pounding. It feels wrong. Like I shouldn't be doing this. Like I'm betraying him. I take a step back, then another, and then, before I know it, I'm grabbing my jacket and slipping out the door. The city is quiet this late at night. The streets are nearly empty. Just a few cars passing by, their headlights reflecting off the pavement. I don't know where I'm going. I just need to get away. I end up at a small coffee shop a few blocks from my apartment. It's one of those places that stays open late, where tired students hunch over laptops and old men sip coffee, as if they have nowhere else to be. I order something. Black coffee, no sugar. I don't even like it, but it gives me an excuse to sit for a while. The cafe has a piano in the corner, an old one, a little out of tune, but still beautiful. A few months ago, I might have sat down and played. Now, I just stare at it. Then, I hear a voice. "You play?" I look up. A man stands nearby, a little older than me, dressed in a worn-out sweater and jeans. His eyes flick between me and the piano. I shake my head. Not anymore. He studies me for a moment before nodding, like he understands something I don't. Then, without another word, he sits at the piano and starts playing. The music is soft, almost hesitant, like he's searching for something in the notes. It's not perfect, a few mistakes here and there, but there's something real about it, something honest. I listen, and for the first time in a long time, I don't feel so alone. The music fills the cafe, quiet but steady. It's not a song I recognize, but there's something familiar about it. The way it lingers, the way it feels like a conversation without words. I don't realize I'm holding my breath until the last note fades. The man at the piano exhales, his fingers resting on the keys for a moment before he looks up at me. "You sure you don't play?" I hesitate. "I used to," he repeats, like he's testing the words. "That's a shame. You look like someone who still has music left in them." I don't know how to respond to that, so I just shrug. He doesn't push. Instead, he stands, stretching his arms before nodding toward the bench. "It's open, if you want it." I shake my head. I can't. Can't or won't. I look away. The words stick in my throat. "Does it matter?" "Yeah," he says simply. "It does." I don't answer. I can't. He watches me for a second longer, then reaches into his pocket, pulling out a folded napkin and a pen. He scribbles something down and slides it across the table. "If you ever want to remember what it feels like to play again, come here." I glance at the napkin. It's an address, along with a name. Mr. Laurent. By the time I look back up, he's already walking away. I don't go home right away. Instead, I take the long way back, my hands shoved deep in my pockets, my mind still tangled in thoughts I don't want to deal with. The words stick with me. Can't or won't. I used to think they were the same thing. But now, I'm not so sure. By the time I reach my apartment, the city is silent. The only sound is the faint hum of a street lamp buzzing overhead. I open the door and step inside. The tape is still there, right where I left it. I pick it up again, turn it over in my hands, run my fingers over the label, play for me one last time. I sit on the edge of my bed, staring at it. And for the first time since I found it, I wonder, what if I'm wrong? What if listening to it doesn't break me? What if it's the only thing that can put me back together? I swallow hard, heart pounding. Then, slowly, I reach for my old cassette player. The cassette feels heavier in my hands now. Or maybe it's just the weight of everything it holds. The memories, the regrets, the things I've been too afraid to face. I should put it down. But instead, I reach for my old cassette player, wiping off the thin layer of dust. It's been years since I used it, but my hands still remember what to do. I slide the tape in. My fingers hover over the play button. Then, I hesitate. My heart is racing. My throat is dry. A part of me wants to stop, to shove the tape back in the drawer and pretend it doesn't exist. But another part, the part that sat in that cafe tonight, listening to someone else play, wonders what would happen if I just let go. I take a deep breath, and I press play. There's a soft crackle as the tape starts. Then, a small voice. Hey Noah, if you're listening to this, that means I finally figured out how to record something on this dumb thing. I freeze. It's him. His voice is light, a little teasing. It sounds like he's smiling. I wanted to leave you something, just in case. Not for anything bad, just, I don't know. I guess I wanted to make sure you'd hear me, even when I wasn't around. There's a pause. I can hear him shifting, maybe playing with the buttons, the way he always fidgeted when he was nervous. You know, I always thought you were kind of a genius. I mean, not at everything. You suck at math and you can't cook to save your life. But with music, Noah, you're amazing. I let out a shaky breath. My eyes burn, but I don't blink. I know you get in your head a lot. You always think you're not good enough. But I wish you could hear yourself the way I hear you, the way everyone else does, the way Mum did, the way Dad would have if he were still here. My hands grip the edges of the player. So if you ever feel like giving up, just promise me one thing, okay? Play for me. One last time. Silence. The tape crackles again, then stops. The room feels too quiet now, like the world is holding its breath. I don't realize I'm crying until I feel the tears hit my hands. I press rewind. Listen again, and again. Every time, his voice wraps around me like a song I'd forgotten the words to. And for the first time in a long time, I don't feel like I'm drowning. I feel like I'm waking up. I don't sleep that night. The cassette sits next to me, the words still ringing in my ears. I've played it so many times that I can recite every line, every pause, every small breath he took between sentences. It feels like he's here. But no matter how many times I listen, it's not enough. It'll never be enough. I don't rewind it again. Instead, I sit there, staring at my piano from across the room. It looks the same as it always has, dusty, untouched. But something about it feels different tonight. It's waiting. Or maybe I'm the one who's been waiting. My feet feel heavy as I stand up. I walk toward it slowly, hesitating with every step. It feels ridiculous to be scared of an instrument, but my chest is tight, my hands clammy. I sit down on the bench. It's familiar, yet foreign, like stepping into a childhood home that no longer belongs to you. My fingers hover over the keys, trembling slightly. I press one down. The note rings out, soft but clear. I press another, and another. The sound feels thin at first, like something fragile, but the longer I play, the more it starts to feel real. My hands remember before my mind does, the way to move, the way to transition between chords. My fingers find a melody on their own. I close my eyes, and then, without thinking, I start playing his song. It was always his favorite. The one he used to hum along to, offbeat and out of tune, grinning at me like he thought he was helping. I used to roll my eyes, pretend it annoyed me, but I never really minded. I reach the chorus, and for a second, I swear I can hear him again. His voice, light and carefree, filling the empty space. The memory hits me so hard it nearly stops me in my tracks. But I don't stop playing. I keep going, letting the music flow, letting every note carry the weight I've been holding for so long. The grief, the guilt, the silence. It all spills out through my fingertips, turning into something I can finally understand. When I reach the last note, my vision is blurred with tears. My hands tremble, but for the first time in a year, I don't feel like I'm drowning. I don't feel trapped. I don't feel alone. I sit there for a long time, just breathing, and for the first time since he's been gone, I whisper the words I should have said that night. I'll play for you as many times as you want, I promise. Morning light filters through my window, casting long shadows across the piano. I'm still sitting on the bench, my fingers resting lightly on the keys. I don't remember how long I played last night, but I know I never stopped after that first song. I played everything. The songs he loved, the ones we used to listen to on old records, the melodies we made up when we were kids. Each note felt like a memory, like a conversation we never got to finish. And now, for the first time in a year, the silence in this apartment doesn't feel so heavy. I reach for the cassette player one last time. My hands are steady now as I press rewind, letting the tape whir softly. Then, I press play. "Hey, Noah." His voice fills the room again. I close my eyes and listen, but this time, I don't feel like I'm breaking. I feel like I'm healing. The tape crackles toward the end, and then, just before the last second, his voice lowers. "One last thing." I sit up straighter, my breath catching. I've played this tape so many times, but this part, this whisper, this unfinished thought, I never noticed it before. "Don't let the music stop." The tape clicks, stops. For a long time, I don't move. Then, I reach into my pocket and pull out the napkin from last night. The one with the address, Mr. Laurent. My fingers tighten around it. I don't know where this will lead me. I don't know if I'm ready to play in front of someone else again. But I do know one thing. I'm not letting the music stop. Not anymore. I stand up, grab my jacket, and step outside, towards something new.